Welcome to this Be Informed demo. In this video we will introduce you to the direct model-driven characteristic of the Be Informed platform. Being direct model-driven means that the models in the Be Informed platform result in a core application, without the need for translating them into code first. We will illustrate this by means of an example project regarding a process to apply for a research grant. We'll show you some models, after which we will preview the resulting web application. Later on, we will change the models and show you how this immediately changes the application as well. First, let's have a look at the main model. The model shows a research grant case with a stage to register the application, an activity to evaluate the application, and an activity to publish the evaluation. The stage and each of the activities have their own results. In the stage, an earlier registered applicant is looked up, and research project details are created. The first activity decides whether and how much funding the applicant receives, and the last activity creates a document that describes and explains the decision made. Before we continue with previewing the application, we take a closer look at the models that determine whether and how much funding is received. We move to the eligibility model. As you can see, the eligibility depends on three conditions, which all have to be true. The project has to be well defined, innovative, and contributing to open source. In a moment, you will see the result of this model in the application preview. In the case model, we see that when the eligibility is true, the amount of funding can be calculated. This amount equals half of the estimated research costs, which in turn depends on other costs, such as the number of team members and the project length in days. Being direct model-driven, the models in the Be Informed platform result in a web application which can be accessed through a web browser. So let's preview the application which results from the models just shown. First, we create a case by clicking the task Create Research Grant Case and fill in a name. Note that three tabs are shown which correspond to the stage and activities we just saw in the model. On these tabs, tasks to perform the stage and the activities can be found. The activity tabs do not show separate tasks, but only offer one activity, since an activity is a unit of work. The tasks within the activity are performed in one go. So let's process the research grant case. Of course, we want to know whether we are eligible for the research grant and how much funding we'll receive. So let's evaluate our application. Remember, this model stated that the eligibility depends on some conditions. And as you can see, the platform now asks questions based on those modelled conditions. Let's say our project contributes to open source, is innovative, and is well defined. Now the amount of funding is going to be calculated. Again, the model stated that the amount of funding depends on a number of input parameters, such as the number of team members and the project length in days. And the platform asks for exactly that information. Now that we have evaluated the application, we also want to add some general information to register the application. Remember, the model stated that this is a stage that does a lookup for an applicant and creates some project details. In the application, we can now perform those tasks. Now, there's one last thing to do, and that's to publish the evaluation. This results in a decision document, in which the decisions and underpinnings are mentioned. So, in conclusion, the Be Informed platform is direct model driven, and the models result in a core web application. To illustrate this some more, let's have a look at what happens when we change the model. To change the model, we go back to the studio. We just evaluated the application before we even registered the application. Because this might be confusing to a user, we want to ensure that someone can only evaluate the application after having added the project details. To do this, we draw a requires available relation from the activity evaluate the application to the case object research project details, and we save the model. Let's switch to the preview in order to see the effect of our change. We create a new case. Remember how first we were able to evaluate the application immediately? Now, after having changed the model, we cannot perform the activity evaluate the application anymore immediately after creating the case. First, we have to register the application, like we just modelled. So, we look up an applicant and enter the project details. And now, just as we expected from the change we made in the model, the evaluation activity is available. So, by changing the model only, we have changed the way the web application works. We want to show you one more change. We're going to extend the eligibility decision. So, let's go to the eligibility model and add some more detail to the condition that reflects whether the project is well defined. In order to get the mark well defined, you should have timelines and a clear research methods description in your project plan. So let's add those conditions to the model. Now we add requires relations to state that those conditions have to be met in order for the project to be well defined. Let's go back to the web application and see what has happened as the result of our change. We create a new case. Register the application. And start the application evaluation. Note that something has changed. Before, we were asked whether the project is well defined. Now that we've added the two conditions in the model, we are asked whether we have timelines and a clear research methods description. Based on the answers, it is decided if the project is well defined. To illustrate this, we are selecting the option of our project not having a clear research methods description. So now, in the results of the decision, it is indicated the project isn't well defined and thus we are not eligible. Again, by changing the model only, we have changed the way the web application works. To recap, this video illustrated that the Be-Informed platform is direct model driven. The models result in a core application, which can be immediately accessed, used and evaluated. Changes in the models are immediately reflected in the web application. We hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.